Good morning, distinguished doctors, mentors, faculty, and dear colleagues. I am Crystal Joy Juan Macni, or just Macni for a lot of my batchmates. I am one of the 1,954 out of 2,781 examinees who passed the March 2026 physician licensure exam. And today, I would like to share my story if you guys won't mind. I am the first doctor in my family. I came from the bloodline of a jeepney driver and a sales lady. People who spend their lives working until exhaustion, just so I can study and get the education I needed. Growing up, I was acutely aware that we had no generational wealth, no influential names, and no institutional safety nets. We were just an ordinary family driven by a singular, urgent vision to lift ourselves out of scarcity. Looking back, I realized that while my parents could not provide me with a financial head start, they endowed me with an asset far more valuable, an unshakable foundation of resilience. For my family, it took 3 generations of silent suffering, impossible sacrifices, and dreams deferred for me to stand where I am today. Every step I carried the weight of everything they endured so that someone in our family could finally have a chance of becoming a doctor. When I was young, I used to go to the farm with my grandmother to pick paria. Looking across the fields, she would tell me how the calloused hands of my grandfather and her own fierce perseverance carved out an education for their 5 children, including my mama, who successfully graduated from college. It was a path chosen not out of comfort, but out of deep conviction. That is why she always reminded me, no matter the adversity, pray and persevere. Dahil nasa tao ang gawa at nasa Diyos naman ang akwa. But no matter how inspired and persevere we were, the trajectory to the artist's code was far from linear. When my internship concluded, I felt completely lost. I was caught in a state of indecision regarding whether to sit for the October physician licensure exam or postpone. I applied anyway, but ultimately chose to wait. Around that time, my tita from abroad returned home, allowing me to spend 2 beautiful weeks anchored by the presence of my aunts, uncles, and cousins. It was during those quiet moments of familial connection that I realized I did not regret my decision to defer. By October, I moved out of our family home to completely isolate myself for review. But on the 3rd day of the ongoing October boards, while my peers were inside the testing sites, I received a call that fundamentally shattered my world. My uncle, who meant so much to me, has passed away. It was sudden, and it broke me to my very bones. I completely stopped opening my reviewers for 1 whole month. Every time I attempted to read, my thoughts drifted to his final days, and the grief was paralyzing. I was consumed by a profound sense of guilt, feeling that I should have remained at home to provide care and attention while he was still with us. To anyone in this generation who had to review while carrying the crushing weight of grief, I see you. I know how agonizing it is to try and absorb medical knowledge when your heart is breaking. During those dark intervals, God provided vital lifelines. I want to express my deepest gratitude to my one-take support family who literally held my hand through the stream. I didn't confront the silence of my isolation because of our Discord chica with study sessions. Nessie, Faith, Lloyd, and Hannah, you kept me afloat when I was drowning in my own thoughts. When the review centers officially started their season, I approached my papa and told him, that I wanted to relocate to Baguio by January to review alongside Lloyd and Jenica. It meant requesting financial assistance once again, a reality that weighed heavily on me. Yet instead of hesitating ko na ikaanak ko, siya bahala ka. His support was absolute. My parents even accompanied me at Baguio to manage my team. But just 2 days after they departed, I met an accident. I sustained a severe injury to my dominant hand. The moment I inspected the gross deformity of my hand, I knew clinically that it was a fracture. But psychologically, denial took over. At the emergency room, looking at the radiographs myself, the diagnosis became clear, undeniable. My housemates, Lloyd and Jenica, rushed to my side. I am blessed because they became my housemates away from my family. They became my surrogate strength because I was simply too terrified to notify my parents. When we returned to our apartment, I broke down. I wept because I foresaw the severe functional limitation this would impose on my court preparation. How was I supposed to write, transcribe, or practice shading with a cast immobilization on my dominant hand? During that period, the psychological tool caught me with me, and I stopped joining our Discord sessions altogether. I isolated myself because I felt too ashamed to face my peers with a heavy cast, feeling like a burden while everyone else was advancing. For 3 weeks, my injury was managed conservatively. However, during my 3rd week follow-up, serial imaging revealed that the fracture has displaced further, showing a 30-degree dorsal ankylation. My orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Bai, looked at me and delivered the heart rate culture. Conservative management had failed and we needed to proceed with open reduction and internal fixation rather than wait until after the boards. Just like that, I was scheduled for the operating room the very next day. Suddenly, instead of reviewing the high-yield topics for the most critical exam of my life, I was confined to hospital bed. And post-operatively, I was entirely dependent on my tita, who came by my side for basic activities of daily living. I couldn't even bathe or cook for myself. In my utter helplessness, I surrendered my anxiety to medicine's ultimate healer. I sustained my daily panata or prayer, knowing that only God could turn the tables in my favor. On the first day of the PLE, after completing the second subject, I sat at my desk and wept. I cried because I was acutely aware of the sheer magnitude of what it took just for me to be sitting in the chair holding a pencil with a recovering post-surgical hand. I did not expect to pass, but I fiercely prayed for a miracle. And today, I know with absolute certainty that I passed because of His divine intervention and not by my own metrics. To be honest, I wondered if my narrative was even worthy at this stage. Truth be told, I was not the only one who struggled through the review process. Every single colleague in this room did. My survival was not heroic, it was simply human. We all fought silent battles behind closed doors. We all had moments where exhaustion made us want to quit. But if there is anything truly remarkable about this journey, it is that I am privileged to stand before you today as a medical doctor, not by virtue of generational wealth, but by the sheer force of generational hard work. It is the absolute validation that nothing is impossible when you confide in God. Looking back, I am filled with profound awe at how incredible our God is. When I lost my ankle and my spirit was broken, He became my comfort. When I fractured my dominant hand and felt utterly incapacitated, He became my strength. When human logic dictated that it was impossible to review and pass under those structural conditions, He completely wrote my case. He didn't just mend my fractured bone. He carried me across the finish line. He proves time and time again that grace operates at maximum capacity when our human circumstances are at their absolute worst. So, I may be the first doctor in my family, but I am not self-made. I am handmade. Handmade by the sacrifices of my parents, by the prayers of my ancestors, by the unconditional love of my friends, and by the sovereign grace of an incredible, all-powerful God. I am handmade. Thank you, and resounding congratulations.